Electronic tax invoice management system.
Okay.
Yes, with KRA. Now we're joined by Hakamba Wangwe. She is the chief manager for eTIMS, the electronic tax invoice management system at the Kenya Revenue Authority. Good morning, Hakamba.
Morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana,
Thank
tena
you for having
sana.
me here.
City will welcome you with the day's proverb. Every week, City goes to one African country.
Okay.
He brings us every day a different proverb from that country.
Okay.
And then we ask our guests to give us their interpretation of that proverb. This week, the proverbs are from the Republic of Kenya. You know that country?
Yes.
Yeah, the taxpayers of that country are called Wahenga. Everybody else is not a taxpayer. Now, the Wahenga came up with a proverb. City?
Yes, and the proverb was actually in Kiswahili. So the opportunity the guest has is to translate it into English and then now tell us what he thinks, she thinks it means. Chura haina manyoya.
Chura haina manyoya.
A frog does not have fur.
Fur.
Yes.
Oh, fur. Oh, okay.
Feathers is okay.
Feathers.
Okay, but fur is good.
Yeah, okay.
Eh? What's your interpretation of it?
I know, right? Same boat, sis.
Oh, wow.
It's obvious.
It's not obvious. Is that really a proverb? Chura haina manyoya.
Can I spice it up for you so that it sounds like a proverb?
Yes.
Once upon a time, there was a frog.
Did not have fur. The end.
There are proverbs that sound like proverbs because they are lengthy and they are cryptic. But proverbs are just sayings.
Yeah.
Yes. They are meant to highlight something that is sometimes obvious, but then it isn't obvious to someone. So when you say it, it becomes, oh, but isn't it obvious that this is so?
Okay.
Yes.
So my interpretation of it, I think, is that we have to treat a situation as it comes. So if you know how to skin, for example, or to defeather a chicken, if you're talking about feathers, or to remove fur from an animal, then for a frog, what it does is leap. So if you need to treat it, then you need to look at their circumstance and treat it accordingly. I don't know.
Good.
It's very good.
Wow.
It's good.
That's deep.
That's very good.
That's a good interpretation.
No, that's an excellent interpretation.
Asante sana.
Excellent.
Asante.
But that interpretation has left out people who eat frogs. They won't quite treat that proverb the same way, but nonetheless. But this is excellent. Thank you.
It means for them it's easier.
Yes, it's much
They
easier.
don't have to start by defeathering
No,
Yeah.
before they,
you just proceed.
they go straight to proceed. Electronic tax invoice management system. What is it, Hakamba?
It's just that electronic tax invoice management system. Now, basically, it's a step above what we've been doing as taxpayers. I'm going to count myself as a taxpayer.
Yeah.
Where when
I
it
hope
comes,
you are.
I am.
Oh,
Of course,
good.
I am. But when you have to account for your tax liability, anytime you need to support your tax liability, you have to have the records of transaction. For example, your sales records, you need your purchase records to be able to say, really, when I say my liability is 30,000 shillings, it's because I have these purchases, I have these sales, and that's why I was able to determine how much my tax liability is. Now, it's something that we have been doing over time because the law has required us to do that. In any form, we have been doing that. Some have been doing it manually, maintaining a record of their transaction. Some have been having the electronic billing systems, depending on their level of technology. Now, the taxman is saying we have not caught up. So now we need to catch up so that we get to where technology has gotten globally in terms of revenue administration. And where technology has gotten globally is to automate that process so that instead of relying on varied ways of maintaining these records, then we are trying to standardize, then we are trying to use technology to become more efficient. So that's where electronic tax invoice management has gotten us to. And it's a journey that honestly started with the VAT registered taxpayers back in 2005. when we introduced the ETR devices. That was the attempt to getting there. But when it came to the real-time approach, we took a bit long. But in the past 2 years, VAT registered taxpayers right now are already on that platform and are transmitting their invoices. Now, that brought us to the next level where for accounting for VAT, we've been able to achieve this much. Why don't we extend the same approach as is for best practice to income tax registered taxpayers? So beginning September, this is the introduction of electronic tax invoice management taxpayers for taxpayers who are not registered for VAT, and that means it's the entire population.
Let us go back into this ETR system and how it worked and whom it affected. And then I will come into eTIMS and understand, so who else is it going to be netting?
Okay.
So ETR, what was it?
ETR.
Like a gadget.
Yes, yes. So it was the electronic fiscal devices that we were using, basically, yes, the gadgets. You talk about the Android devices, basically handheld devices. What we were trying to achieve with that was that we had a segment of our VAT registered taxpayers who didn't have any kind of system they were using for invoicing. So we were trying to introduce that device. It's simple to use. It's partially manual, but it's very simple to use. They just get to generate a receipt, and at that point, it was enough. But when we introduced the tax invoice management system, what we were saying, with the same approach, with the same devices, can we add specifications so that now transmit those invoices to KRA? So that was the second level. It was affecting the VAT registered taxpayers only.
So initially, the gadget was producing a receipt.
Yes.
But this was not transmitting to KRA. Was KRA coming into contact with this information at any stage?
Yes, because again, what we did for our requirements is that even as we started the ETRs, we also started automating the KRA systems. Now we started implementing iTax.
Yes.
So iTax got to the point of being delivered about by 2015. We had fully delivered iTax, but then now what we were requiring from the ETR receipts is that when you're filing your VAT return, you needed to maintain an Excel template, a CSV file, populate the details of what is being generated from the ETR and import into the iTax system.
Yeah.
So it was kind of semi-manual. And our vision or our objective was to make it automatic, that you open your VAT return and you're able to actually see a record of those transactions actually available at the Revenue Authority already, so that we simplify that process. So our promise to the taxpayer is, as we're implementing these systems, we also want to simplify the tax filing process.
You get that. So this gadget, everybody had to acquire the gadget. Everybody had to register on iTax. So every 20th, you find people doing that whole. By the 20th, you are doing that whole transferring of that receipt into the Excel and uploading it on iTax and filing your VAT returns. Okay? And then last year, KRA tells everybody you have to buy a new gadget. And this new gadget now is electronic, blah, 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 this and the other. And you can even upgrade the gadget that you have. What was that all about?
Now, last year, it was the introduction of eTIMS.
Okay.
So
was it the previous year that
yeah, but
like last year
2 years back.
2022.
2 years back, yes. Yeah, it was 2022.
Okay. So in 2022, when you're telling people to now buy the new gadgets, what was that all about?
It was about technology getting obsolete. So even as we rolled out the devices in 2005, from 2005 to 2022, those devices did not have capability to maintain, first of all, to store the amount of invoices that we were projecting to transmit, and we needed those invoices stored. Those devices could not transmit. Some of them could not connect to internet. So for the ones who had smart devices, especially the ones on Android, all they needed to do was to upgrade. But the ones who had, those ones we rolled out in 2005, they had to buy new ones.
So essentially, the shelf life of these gadgets is how many years?
Basically, technology. When you talk about PCs, laptops, I think you give it a shelf life of 3 years for good functionality. You can see our taxpayers used them for over 10 years.
10 years.
You'll be using, but there'll be so much that is being added that yours cannot take up.
Did KRA take the time to inform people about this ahead of time and tell them by this date you needed to have changed and done this and the other?
Yes, we always do that. Let me just mention that we started the plan to start moving to the device-based approach teams. We started in 2016. So from 2016, we were just in the process of development, stakeholder engagement. The law was in place from 2020. So you can see there was a lot of time that was passing for us to get ready to this implementation.
And
Yes.
in relaying this information, was there an opportunity to get feedback from the users of that old technology and people who are taxpayers to tell you what they thought about the information that you're giving them?
Yes, again, even as we were putting the law in place, what we did is we are required by law, by the way, to do the public participation so that you're able to see what really is the ground saying. And what was happening at that time, because we had already implemented the ETR regime, the thought was we start from where we are, and where we were is the integration with the electronic fiscal devices, and automate that to be able to just transmit invoices before we can now explore what else technology has and just feed it into that implementation.
Okay.
I haven't finished this thing.
Yes, okay.
May I continue?
Please,
Yes, so
absolutely.
when you had your public participation, the feedback that you got, if we were to collate that information, how much did it influence then the implementation of what it is that you then put out to the public?
Actually, a lot, because you know what happened is that at the point, you remember I mentioned that we started this thought in 2016.
Yes.
By 2016, the idea of why don't we explore the different technology? Why don't we do the system-to-system integration? But then the other feedback was, where are our taxpayers at? Where are they right now? They are at the electronic fiscal devices. So why don't we just deal with simply adding the functionality of transmitting invoices? Then before we introduce a big change that probably might be now where we are at eTIMS right now, when everyone is saying that probably maybe it's too much technology for the smaller taxpayers. So we were starting small, but introduce the advanced technology as time goes by. So at least that was the feedback that we were able to receive, so that even as our thought process was, wait a minute, we can do the software approach, we can do this, we can do so many other solutions, but let's start by transmission first. So actually that's how the decision came about.
Okay. The thing about, I'm sure you know, taxes in Kenya is that even when it comes to filing taxes, everybody has questions about how this would be done. And so now we're at the point whereby a new technology is being introduced to folks who have no choice but to make these payments. What is the fundamental difference between ETR, which has been used up until now, and what is the difference? And for whom is this change? Is it for KRA to do its work easier? Or is there any kind of benefit for the individuals and the organizations and the companies who have to pay tax? For whom is this new technology beneficial?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question, because maybe even furthering the conversation we've had on Teams, automating the fiscal devices, by the time we rolled out, we actually realized that we were able to onboard most of the large and medium taxpayers, actually 95% of large and medium taxpayers. Then we looked around, where are the small ones? And what is their problem? So what we came to discover was that the cost of compliance was so high for the smaller taxpayers. And then now we just thought about it. The smaller taxpayers have laptops, have tablets, have computers, which they are using in their course of business. So what we had to introduce was the free software, which is now eTIMS, and then flexible solutions so that, for example, a taxpayer who is just dealing with services only, all they need is to get credentials from for them to be able to access a revenue KRA system to be able to generate invoices. So the flexible solutions that include the mobile app, the free software that can be installed on the laptops, phones, tablets, etc., the online portal that we only need credentials for, served the smaller taxpayers better. And we saw uptake going up again. So in the course of 2023, most of the taxpayers who we onboarded were actually the smaller taxpayers, those ones who are registered for VAT. So come now, the law coming in place and us putting it out there that apart from VAT registered taxpayers, then those who are not registered for VAT, that include all people with business income. They must be residents, they must be citizens, or if they are non-residents, they must have permanent establishment in this country. They need to support their transactions with an electronic tax invoice. Basically, what it is saying is that from this tax return that is going to be filed for this current year, then what the taxpayers have been doing, whenever they are doing their profit and loss account, they will declare their turnover, they will declare their expenses in one way or the other.
Yep.
So you're saying those expenses, they have been maintaining a record, even manual ones, so to be able to support, if you say that you bought machinery, where are the receipts? But now we are saying those receipts need to be electronic tax invoices.
How were you able to collate this information prior to this eTIMS technology?
Mostly manual. Still coming back to that, mostly manual, because if we have now to assess, to do a tax assessment based on taxpayers' declarations, what we'll be receiving, some people would actually come with a pickup when they're bringing their receipts. It's not practical. It's not practical. So we knew this is something that we need to do. Have a database of this information. Save the taxpayers from that headache of trying to find their records 5 years back, because we have the records with us. Save ourselves the time. We go and spend at the taxpayers' premises a month over trying to go through boxes and boxes of receipts just to try to determine that this is actually matches with what the taxpayer declared.
Okay, so this is a real-time process according to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So can we just break it down a little bit for really bite-sized understanding? I sell shoe polish, my shop full, okay? I now get the new software on my phone, eTIMS, and we're going to assume for the purposes of the conversation that it is seamless. I can download it, I get it on my phone, it is working, right? Eric comes to my shop today. He buys 1 tin of polish. At the time that he buys, on the phone, I input 1 shoe polish, 100 shillings. Sold. This is the amount. It automatically calculates VAT, all of those things. The receipt is also a soft copy. It's in the system. I can give Eric a receipt. I can print it out, whatever. I can give him, because it allows me to do that. I can hook it up to the technology. I print a receipt. Eric has his receipt. The system, according to what you're saying, then generates a receipt that goes directly to KRA. Or does it remain in my cloud somewhere? And then on the 20th, when KRA is asking me to do all of these things, then we can collate. Or does it mean that as I'm selling, KRA is also getting my receipts and they're able to see activity? What is it?
Yes, but let me just qualify that. For KRA to get the receipt, they need the taxpayer needs to connect to internet. So yes, in the process of you making your transaction, suppose you don't have an internet connection, the system will actually store those invoices until such a time you have a connection. It transmits all of them.
Very good. You know why? Have we taken into consideration how many of these small businesses have access to this internet now that is obviously being demanded of them to be compliant with this new technology?
Now, I just come to think about it. The internet coverage in this country, when you think about it, the percentage coverage of internet is actually really good for this country, that even if in some areas it might be intermittent, and I come from one of these areas, it is there. It is available, so that it's able to support business, because as you can see, our communication sector has done really, really well in terms of technology and rolling out solutions so that we can be able to communicate.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
We'll continue shortly. It's 28 minutes to 8. We are hosting Hakamba Wangwe. She is the Chief Manager in charge of eTIMS, that's the Electronic Tax Invoice Management System. New system being rolled out by the Kenya Revenue Authority. She's here to explain to us what this is all about and who requires this eTIMS and how do you get it. And again, like Ndu is asking, what's the benefit to you as a taxpayer? What's the benefit to the government? Okay, this conversation continues shortly. Good morning.
We value your feedback and welcome your comments, queries, and complaints regarding our content. You can get in touch with us on SMS 22151, call 0719 012 450 or 0719 012 090, or email feedback@standardmedia.co.ke, or you can send us a letter on Post Office Box 30080-00100, Nairobi, or deliver it to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi.
Everybody. Auntie, Papa go, they make me shine. Everybody, let's go. Mafans wangu wamojishon baba, watu wamepiga pesa worship unasema mimi nataka kuchezea Bwana, chezea ati chezea Bwana, chezea ati sababu yu mwema.
Fanta. Submit to the fizziest of fizz. Surrender to a bubbly bliss. Succumb to the flavor frenzy. Fanta. Indulge with a sip and snack.
Hi guys, my name is Sheila Wakio, a travel and lifestyle content creator, and I am a millennial on the move. Yes, traveling is quite expensive. That's why most of the time I usually reach out to hotels before I travel. I have so many people who want to do this, but they're like, content creators mko wengi, kila mtu anafanya hii kitu. But I'm like, everyone has their own craft, you know, at the end of the day. So just do you, be yourself. We'll be like 5 people who would be invited to a hotel to create content, but everyone will come, each one of us will come with like different ideas, you know. We can't always have the same ideas.
Nimeget airtime.
Airtel Money inakuokolea.
Really?
Ukiwithdraw chapa kwa Airtel Money agent, inakurudishia hiyo transaction fee kama airtime.
Auntie.
Karibu.
Airtel Money makes your life kidogo better.
Nimekuja kusema asante.
Tendereza.
Nimeokoka na furahi, na dhambi zangu zimetoka, nataka kutumikia. Niambie utakalo Bwana, nipe nguvu ya kushinda majaribu.
Small businesses and individuals running small businesses. Those that are registered as a business name, those are registered as small businesses, those are not even registered. Everybody who's basically trading and will need to file with KRA at some point will need to connect to eTIMS. Am I right?
Correct.
Even individuals.
Eric, I think maybe to just put it in perspective,
Yes.
even individuals have been registered for VAT and are already transmitting invoices to KRA. But when you look at what the law says, is that in fact this month of January is where there was a bit of worry for most of the taxpayers, because what we said is that effective 1st January, all taxable expenditure or expenditure that needs to be accounted for in taxes must be supported with an electronic tax invoice. Now, we're looking at a situation where businesses are doing business with other businesses, issuing each other invoices, and anytime you're doing that, the other person, we are saying, needs an electronic tax invoice. Yeah. So it so happens that in this conversation, the conversation about Mama Mboga has come in, and it was nice to know that the Mama Mboga are actually, in fact, the biggest feedback we received was from the manufacturing entities, the retail outlets, saying that people who supply to them are too small. But then we were also happy to see that the smallest of our taxpayers are actually facing up. They're actually supporting major industry in this country. So what we needed, because now us knowing that they have an impact on what their revenue declaration is or their tax declarations are, we thought it's an important sector to actually pay attention to, identify what their challenge is, because we definitely need to know more about this impact that actually they have on the major industry, but then also identify what challenges they might be having in them being able to comply. Now, I've talked about eTIMS and the solutions that we have in eTIMS. From the feedback, once again, that we've gotten from these industries saying the entities that supply them are too small, they are not able to maintain records of transactions. If we can simplify the process better, yes, we listened, we heard, and we worked through December. Through the holidays, 25th, 24th, worked through the holidays to make sure that we have stepped into, once again, a lower level solution that would be fit for even smaller taxpayers. And as we speak right now, we have the first of these solutions actually already hosted on the eCitizen platform, more simplified than eTIMS. See, for eTIMS, I think maybe most of the concerns were the process of getting on board eTIMS, the whole registration sign up, which is necessary so that you can be able to identify the person who is doing business, entering the product, stock management, that businesses with technical know-how are okay with, but the smaller taxpayers might have challenges with. So we now have we've stepped down a level further so that we have an even more simplified solution for these smaller taxpayers, reducing the loop that we had for the other solutions for taxpayers to come on board, and just make sure that should this taxpayer now, for example, make their supplies to a certain exporter, for example, their avocados, we've heard a lot about avocados and tomatoes, they're actually able to just generate an invoice, support that supply, and enable this person also to support their purchases with an electronic tax invoice.
So let me first of all just clarify, and then I'll tell you a big problem that I have here. So what we are saying is small businesses like the Mama Mbogas, like Ndu's Duka kiosk that sells shoe polish, mukate, ngumu, soda, juice ya Pacto, Core, Tropical, KSL, those ones, all of those need to have the eTIMS.
Yes, but again, I'm still going to come back to what we require right now. Right now, the ones facing off with other business entities. So if Ndu's shop is also making a supply to maybe the next primary school, they're the ones who also supply milk there.
Yes.
Then Ndu at this point, 1st January, also needs to onboard eTIMS.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because that's what Ndu does.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
she supplies to a primary school there.
Yeah.
supplies, also has another biashara that supplies beans to the next primary school and such, and so on and so forth. You're supplying somebody, and that person, for their own tax purposes, they require you to give them
An invoice.
an eTIMS invoice. Okay? Now, KRA rolled this program since last year. And then you received feedback and you're like, oh my God, you mean you supermarkets are actually supplied by small people? Where have you been, KRA? As you telling me that KRA did not know that small businesses supply bigger businesses that supply even bigger businesses. Are you saying that KRA was not aware that this is how business works in this country?
No, KRA.
Or even where?
Yeah.
So
KRA
when you are rolling out this program, why did you start with the end? Because the impact of what you are telling the big supplier, the big supermarket to do is you're saying you are not going to come and tell me that these are your costs if you don't support them with electronic tax invoices. You're basically telling that person that you're not going to accept to be supplied to by a small business that has been supporting you. You knew that. You knew the impact of that. And yet you rolled out this program, and now you're telling us you worked over 24th, 25th to realize that you had to work this and to come up with a solution, which you still don't know whether it will work well for that small business. Where does government operate on live trials? Because this appears to be like a live trial.
You know, when we were rolling out teams, I think that's the feedback we received. We are doing a live trial, and guess what? We managed to actually complete the rollout.
The live trial worked.
Yes, that live trial worked. What we are really saying is that what we are introducing is not something that is in existence already. It's already there, because this small taxpayer we are talking about, because it's easier to focus on. In fact, the time when we started the rollout, I received a lot of SMSs. What about the mama mboga with 3 avocados, a crate of tomatoes? So this small taxpayer who is already supplying to these retail outlets is already giving them a receipt. Aren't they giving them receipts already as we speak? Are they giving them receipts?
They are giving them
They are
receipts.
giving them receipts. So
Yes.
when we say that now we need to formalize these receipts so that they are visible, and the most important thing is providing visibility to the Revenue Authority, because what happens when you look at those small transactions to the retail outlets, to the supermarkets, to the manufacturing entities, they do add up. And the manufacturing entities, when they're doing their income tax return, they will declare these small transactions. When we have gaps as a country or as a revenue administration, so that we can really not ascertain what the tax liability of a person is because of the gaps that are there, what is the solution to this?
So this is for KRA then?
So just starting from the point of visibility of transactions, of course it is for KRA. And just to bring us closer home, I think when you look at such an implementation, it's not out of the blue so that we say it's a trial. Let me tell you, the neighboring countries, and we count all of them around us, minus one, all of them have implemented this system from 2012. So
Okay.
Kenya as a country actually had remained behind.
So even had someone to benchmark with,
We have.
and yet you had to work 24th and 25th.
So just to mention
It tells
also,
me you didn't benchmark.
so 24th and 25th, the solution we have, none of the East African countries has. So we have a different solution. So what they have, they don't have what we did for the month of December. So
You know, the issue I'm raising, and sorry just to harp on this hard like this, is you started by saying as you interact with your taxpayer, with the taxpayer who is your key stakeholder, you realize that there are various areas of challenges. One of the key challenges is the cost of compliance. Cost of compliance comes in many ways: in time, in actual costs, in technology, in knowledge and skill. So you have to hire somebody who actually understands this thing so they can log on to your iTax for you, because you have no clue what this is, right? And this is what we've seen over time. So starting from the premise of cost of compliance includes lack of skill and knowledge, and also includes lack of time and access to some of these services. Shouldn't you have started from the other way around by seeing how do we reach out to all businesses, small businesses, understanding the hustler business, the mama mboga, huyu jamaa anauza mapapai hapa na miwa hapa kwa all those, and then interact with them and see, so how do you do your business? You do a receipt. If I wanted to get access to that receipt, what's the best way for me to get access to that receipt? Would it be for me to tell you, get a smartphone? From that smartphone, I am now going to tell you to download an app. From that app, I'm going to be requiring you to load data. From that, then I'm going to teach you how to be getting a code so that you can access your iTax.
Still coming back to that, I think the mistake we are making is underestimating our taxpayers. When it comes to tax administration is when we say our taxpayers are technologically challenged. But the truth is, on the ground, every day, especially since COVID, most of our taxpayers have actually, for their own use, have adopted technology in one way or the other. And that's why when you go to banks right now, you don't find the queues you used to find those days when you need to go to the bank and make a withdrawal. You know, it's a whole day process because you all have to be there. What happened? The ATMs came along. Yeah. They can have their mobile banking on their phones. And they have done this.
Yes.
They have done, but in other aspects, it is okay. They are able to adopt this technology. But when it comes to tax, you're like, oh, no, maybe they can't generate a receipt.
No,
Why do you think
there's
that
capacity building. There's capacity building. When you roll out a new app, like now we are talking about Maramoja taxi app. We talk about this is how you download it. It's a blue one. This is how you register. You shall go through this and the other. We don't say from tomorrow you're not going to be able to move from A to B if you don't have the app.
So no, what happened?
KRA operates from the other side. From the 1st of January, if you don't have an if you don't have an
if you can, because this is another thing. So you can imagine other small, and I want to ask how this would work, because it is one concern that has been raised. So small businesses who would ordinarily invoice another business, we're saying that today you cannot then invoice without having been on eTIMS, because the receiving organization will not accept an invoice that is not eTIMS compliant. Is that what we're saying as well?
No. Okay, so now let me just start back. We don't just start like we just wake up and say KRA. We are saying from January. The law came in place in June. June. And what happens as our obligation as taxpayers, as the legislative changes are being done, you are aware, how is it affecting me? By June, I knew housing levy is going to affect me. And it did. So by June, by the time the finance bill is being read, you already actually know where the changes are going to be. And then now we started pacing ourselves from September. We said taxpayers to start onboarding. Unfortunately, they did not, because the real noise, and I think this is what is happening, started in December. So when we did the stakeholder engagement, yes, we did. We have done a lot of stakeholder engagement and still intend to do more and build capacity and do the training, taxpayer education, to make sure that we're able to reach as many of these taxpayers as possible and address whatever challenges that they are having. We also realized that our taxpayers are also not ready. And that's why I think in December, we had a public notice out towards the end of December before New Year. We said, okay, we will allow you to continue onboarding till end of March. The law has not changed. Maybe something to note. The law is still effective 1st January. So if you find yourself in a cycle where you already are deep in these transactions, the best thing to do is onboard now, so that you don't have a backlog of invoices that come March, now you have to start still inputting in the system, because we have said they still have to be transmitted through the system. It's just that we'll give you some bit of concession till March, so that you make changes in your system. We try to do as much stakeholder engagement as possible, build capacity as possible, but come March, whichever transactions you'll have transacted outside the system must be visible in the system, because these people you are doing business with must still support their transactions with an electronic tax invoice. So the taxman is also understanding, as much as it does look like we've not done our groundwork, but even extending, like saying that we are giving the concession up to March, it's because of the feedback on the ground. And we come back and we're like, it's not realistic for 1st January. We need to support business continuity. We need to have food on our tables, because I think the farming sector is actually supporting us a lot. But we also need to find ways of still having visibility of these transactions, whichever way the objective it needs to be achieved for better revenue administration.
You know, the efforts that KRA makes are actually very visible. KRA has done tremendous work in making themselves user-friendly to the citizen. Those efforts are lauded, they are good, and one sees them. But please remember where we are coming from. KRA as carry, okay? We are coming from an era when it was income tax, okay? And when you got a letter, you didn't open it first. You took a walk, made a cup of tea, opened it, and then opened it slowly to read it. Now, all that has actually changed tremendously. But I'm saying, when I say remember where we are coming from, issues of tax are not things that people receive with joy and jubilation. You don't go and celebrate that you've paid taxes. You grit your teeth when you pay taxes, okay? So the effort that KRA makes, wonderful as it is, let me urge you, it is asking you to do something fairly inhuman, but it must always continue. At some point, you always get more and more disciples. People get to feel, actually, look, we can talk to KRA, we can have a chat, we can do this, and they can open doors. Now, on this matter, let me change the conversation just slightly. There's a portal, we're electronic, we're 21st century, we're communication age and all that. How useful is it? You know, I've been sitting here trying to figure out how this thing works on my phone. Hey!
Actually, let's go through it, all right?
Yes.
If you are one of those small businesses operating a small business and they want to onboard onto eTIMS today, what do?
They need to, for them to onboard onto eTIMS, they need to, first of all, for any technology, you need to sign up. There's no way you'll just go and find an off-the-shelf solution that you just generate an invoice. You don't know where the invoice is coming from. So you need to sign up. You need to identify yourself. So the signing up is there, yes. You need to say, on the eTIMS portal. If you go, for example, to Google, just type eTIMS portal, it will take you to the sign-up page.
eTIMS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you Google eTIMS, it shows you a portal.
It takes you to the landing page.
eTIMS.KRA.
Yeah, that one, .kra.go.ke.
Okay. And then
now you sign up. And then you do like a service request. Service request means this. You need to identify yourself as a taxpayer, say what you do.
Okay.
Because when we talk about, for example, some of the solutions, we talked about the online portal. I mentioned that it's only good for services.
Yeah.
So the law firms are the accounting entities, they're all on the online portal. So you need to say exactly what you do. If you're moving goods, then from our end, when we are approving, we are actually approving for a client solution, so that you have to have the software installed on your device so that you can be able to generate invoices. Because with goods comes the stock management, as the inventory management aspect of it, that is not on the online services solution. So why I'm giving you the steps, we have sign up, we have a service request, and there's an approval on the KRA side, just to make sure that you have placed yourself in the right way. What happens is that we find some people who are trading in goods, they are requesting for the online portal. By the time we see the application, you're like, no, we are telling you that you need to install the software on your devices. So there must be that check on our end.
How long does this take? So once somebody right now goes onto Google on their mobile phone, right? They just search eTIMS portal, they'll find the etims.kra.go.ke. I'm there. So I press sign up, I put in the details. Now it's going to be on the approval side from the KRA side. How long does that take for KRA to approve?
KRA, what we've done also, we've enabled all our TSOs, our tax service offices, we have officers in each office, each station, who are actually supporting the eTIMS implementation. So that as a taxpayer, once you make your application, the officers in your station should make the approval. And based on their speed, by the way, within a day, actually, you should be onboarded.
Okay.
You should be onboarded.
So will I receive a message to tell me that I've been onboarded?
You will receive a message that
a text message?
Yes, you'll receive a text message.
Okay. So after that, after I get the text message, I've been onboarded.
You log in again.
Go back now to the portal.
Yeah. And
now instead of sign up, I log in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, because you'll also receive credentials to be able to use the system. There's a one-time password, there's credentials. So basically, you just log in and now you can start invoicing.
Okay. So the next time I supply now to what is Willy Kimani's new innovative Jazza. So the new Jazza supermarkets by Willy Kimani, right? So I supply bananas to Willy Kimani's Jazza. I go with my mobile phone and then log in.
No, this is what you do. When you're supplying to Willy Kimani, you also are accompanying. He's going to make a payment. You're accompanying your supply with what?
Bananas.
So there's bananas. But as you know, you're just following the business process. Of course, you know you're going to invoice. So why don't you get ready and know that once I'm paid, I have to generate an invoice for him or a receipt. So because usually you'd carry your receipt book.
Yes.
Usually.
Yes.
But now you know that you need to have a system solution. So you go ready. You just go ready. But maybe to just mention about the more simplified solution that we have on eCitizen, we are not having VAT registered taxpayers on that solution. VAT registered taxpayers will stay on our other solutions, TIMS and eTIMS, but this one for the smallest of taxpayers, they can use. The ones with system-to-system integration also, they cannot use that solution because they are more advanced. They use the advanced solutions.
So the one on eCitizen,
it's for people who don't have.
It's fairly straightforward.
It's straightforward, yes. Don't have. Actually, that one now, the process is automated. There's no approval on KRA side, but you still have to enter your PIN, for example, say who you are, and so that we can also be able to identify you when the invoices are being transmitted.
Hakamba, are we going to see any campaigns, media campaigns, just taking a step-by-step onboarding onto eTIMS, step-by-step onboarding onto this eCitizen, so we can know? Just like Citi keeps reminding us, the central bank told us, stop using this old 1,000 note, this is the new 1,000 note. And every day there was a clear message. This is what you do with your old 1,000 note, take it to the bank, get the new one. Are we going to get this kind of messaging to the people?
Yes, actually, watch this space starting next week. You'll be seeing a lot of us. I'm already here starting this campaign.
Oh, this is part of it. So
yes, it's part of it. It's part of it. I'm already here. But from next week, watch this space. We'll actually have a lot of activity on the ground to make sure that we have a lot of information available. But we already have information available on our KRA website. We have the videos on YouTube that you can actually. We do.
Yes,
We do.
You do.
We do. So, but we can do better, and we are going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
And keep coming. We'll invite you again as now this is rolled out, so that by March we see whether we all are on the same page. Because I don't even know whether I am a VAT registered. I know I'm not VAT registered. Should I? Hakamba, thank you for joining us.
Asante.
She is the Chief Manager in charge of Electronic Tax Invoice Management System at KRA. Her name is Hakamba Wangwe. She's been our guest. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we have the CS for ICT and the digital economy. It's 8 a.m. Good morning.